The Africa Energy Forum is drawing thousands of energy leaders, financiers and young innovators to the Cape Town International Convention Centre for a second day. Today's focus is on growing Africa's leadership in global energy discussions. Newzroom Afrika's Nasiphi Same joins us now live from there. Nasiphi, the latest on day 2 of this gathering.
Well, Vuyo, what I can say is that the CTICC has become a hive of activities, thousands of delegates at the Cape Town Convention Centre, where we have them gathering for this annual conference, the Africa Energy Forum, and we have government ministers and various delegates coming around under one roof to discuss energy for the African continent. I'm joined by Thandi, who is from the UK Trade and who is a trade and investment advisor, who's going to be speaking to us not only about some of the discussions that have been had, but the UK's participation in this particular forum.
Thank you so much, Nasiphi. So we see ourselves as the UK not just as a partner, but a collaborator with African governments, private sector and investors in establishing and growing the energy sector in Africa. We've had many discussions privately and publicly as well that are progressing those partnerships. And we are seeing this as an opportunity to really grow public-private partnerships within the space of energy.
On that note, we understand that there's a number of delegates meeting under one roof, key focus being energy. How do you take those conversations forward?
There's a lot happening. So I'll give you an example. Earlier on today, we had the Private Infrastructure Development Group, which is a UK-funded entity, signing a deal with the Zimbabwean government, with the Ministry of Energy, a very huge deal that's going to see an investment of $52 million into the country in solar energy. So these things are happening right here. And we think when we're able to convene people in one space, we're able to have those conversations rather than trying to have meetings across continents, and so when you convene people in one space, multiple conversations are happening, and it really results in something as wonderful as that signing that happened today.
Women in STEM, let's have that chat. How important is it for women to occupy leadership roles in STEM?
You know, when you look at climate change, the most affected by climate change are women. And I think it's time that the people who are most affected participate in how do we change it? How do we make life easier for our communities? And women are best placed to do that. So the UK is funding education for girls to be in STEM. We also are supporting women to enter into leadership roles, whether it's in the space of energy or finance or having conversations around climate smart finance. So we really think that women have a huge role to play in terms of redefining STEM and how that affects women within climate change.
And earlier on we had, or rather the UK, Great Britain had the workshop where it was discussing unleashing institutional capital for sustainable growth. And I think I'm jumping on the answer that you gave us initially, but talk to us about what came out of that.
So I think, it's no secret that a lot of foreign governments are cutting spending world over. And I think for a very long time, there's been a dependency on aid in terms of growing certain sectors. And I think out of that conversation, it was established that it is time for institutional investors, both local and foreign, to enter into the space and see how, we can use blended methods of financing some of these big infrastructure sort of projects. So we have blended finance models, we have institutional investors, and also private players coming in with the equity to invest within that space.
And then, from our end, obviously on the other side of the CTICC, we have the youth discussing energy for the African continent. How important are these forums that are being held annually?
I mean, if you look at Africa, over 70% of our population is made up of young people. And they need to participate in this because everything that's happening is affecting them. They are our future leaders. In fact, they are our current leaders. And when they start having the conversations, they can shape their future and determine how it is that we treat the environment that we live in, but also innovation around energy as well. We're depending on young people to be innovative, and I think that they have the capability, and now is the time to give them that space and that energy to do that.
Energy and space. Thandi, I also want to just find out, looking at the African continent, the sustainability of energy, renewable energy, sitting from where you are, where do you see the African continent as so far as energy and sustainability, but where do you also see it in the coming future?
So I think Africa is well placed to be leading in that space. Let's think of solar. In most parts of Africa, we have sunshine 365 days a year. And a lot of what has happened over the years gives us the ability to be creative and innovative when we think around what is sustainable and how can we invest in those spaces. We are the least contributor to pollution in the world. So I think we could be leaders in this space if we just think strategically, and we also partner with our government. So the public-private partnerships I spoke about earlier, we have a space where those can be really built and those can be strong in really progressing the conversation around sustainable finance and sustainable development.
We'll have to leave it there. That is Thandi from the UK, who is the Trade and Investment Advisor. We are still at the Africa Energy Forum here in Cape Town, CTICC. We, as you can hear and also see behind me, is that this convention center is a buzz with activity. And just later on this afternoon, we will be speaking to the youth who are on the other side of the CTICC to hear what kind of conversations they are having regarding sustainability, energy, particularly zoning in on the African continent.
It's like some there live for us from the Cape Town ICC.